We're here for another episode of Let's Know Buffalo, and we're here with Frank DiMaria from Frank's Basements.
Hey guys.
And all things basement.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I love that, by the way.
Thanks.
So you're in a lot of things, though. But I want to go back to the beginning because you run Frank's Basements.
Yep.
Your father started it
43 years ago.
So
Yeah.
what was that like growing up? Did you always know you wanted to get into that?
Wanted no part of it. Wanted nothing to do with it. Yeah, no.
Here you are today.
Yeah. Really, really good blackmail. Obligation, familial obligation. I wanted to be, so I went to school to be an English teacher. So I have a degree in English education.
Wow.
It's where I met my wife at Fredonia, who is incredible. We can talk about her later in the show. And we were gonna, be these amazing teachers together and do all this stuff. We lived in the Bronx and taught in Manhattan.
Oh, really?
I taught 12th grade English. I came back to Buffalo and taught for a little while. She was a teacher for a while as well, still is. And somewhere along the line, it was like really tough we moved back to Buffalo. My grandfather got ill from New York City. I taught for a little while and I was selling part-time for my father's company. And I had gotten into real estate. I'd gotten into a bunch of other stuff to supplement income while I was also teaching. And there had come a point where it just, I was staring down the barrel of my first kid being born. I had had rental properties and I was kind of at this crossroads. I had a conversation with my father, sat down with him at Sinatra's restaurant over some pasta. And we kind of hashed out some details of, where I was coming from. I'd been a part of the company since I've been 3 years old, right? Family company. It's, you want to go hang out with dad, you're going snow plowing at 3 a.m, right? So, I'd done every job at the company and got an opportunity to go out in the world, do some of my own stuff, and then take that information and sit back down and say, look, I think this is where we can bring it to, and this is what we can do. And, I feel really grateful to have had the opportunity, but also to have someone that was receptive like my father.
I was just going to say, how did that go over?
Yeah, so I think he knew that there was always this idea of potentially the succession plan, I think, of me being a part of it, but I think he also knew that I was at the point where I'd had enough life experiences outside of the Frank's Basement world that I could see things with a little clearer eye, right? Because when you're emotionally involved with something, your intelligence level goes way down, right? So it was nice to rehash it, rekindle it in such a way that it made a hell of a lot of sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I would say usually an Italian father, business owner, not very receptive to change, probably.
Not at all. No. So I will give him so much credit because for all the Dago-esque qualities about him that there are, he's somebody who is perpetually asking, hey, what can I do better?
Wow.
If, first one that if I made a mistake, let me make it right. Let me fix it. I'm sorry. All the things I heard.
Wow.
Some yelling, but yeah. So I got to give him a lot of credit for that. And especially to hand it off after 40, he started with one lawnmower.
Wow.
Out of my grandmother's, who still works at Frank's. She has her own cafe, Yvonne's Cafe. She's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing. So she's got her own cafe at our place. She's got her own jukebox, little tables and everything.
Nice.
And he started with one lawnmower. Everyone told him he couldn't do it. He Kemmer West basically dropped. The only kid that ever graduated high school without going to one. He never read a book, I don't think, in his life. He just started reading, and can't read or write, and is one of the smartest guys I know. And started with one lawnmower, cut the teachers' lawns.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a crazy origin story. I mean, I can tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
because it's kind of neat. So
I'd love to hear that.
The whole thing started off with him having friends who didn't want to deliver papers on weekends. So he said, I'll go deliver your papers and you give me a vig. So he cultivated a database of customers at 14 years old.
Oh my God.
And he converted the paper route people over to grass cutting people.
Wow.
So he was running at 15, 16 years old, a full landscaping crew out of his parents' garage, right? Well, what happened, he found, is that people would call him, say, well, you can't cut my lawn, my lawn's wet. And he's like, oh, well, maybe I'll put lines in. I'll put drainage lines in. And they said, you know how to do that? And he said, yeah. And he had no idea. So he went and worked for the competition, learned how to do it, and went back and waterproofed.
That's wild.
Yeah. So then out of that, people were like, well, if you can waterproof my backyard, can you waterproof my basement? He's like, sure, no problem.
How old is he this time?
17.
Oh my God.
So yeah, he went and learned how to do that.
And he was in Kenmore?
Yeah, being right in Kenmore.
Perfect
Town of
area.
Watergate. So yeah, and then what happens is in the world of drain tile in Western New York, you have to have a master plumber license. You have to pull a permit to install drain tile. We're only one of the only places in the entire country that require that.
Sure.
So he's like, well, I'll start a plumbing company. So the plumbing company was a complete accident. Like,
Oh my God.
it was only like probably 10 years ago. We woke up and we're like, we have a plumbing company. Like, we should pay attention to it. They're digging 8 sewers a day, right? So, but yeah, so then it just all kind of fell in, and he's an entrepreneur by spirit. So I've been there the whole ride. I mean, we ran something called Dr. Energy. We were doing insulation, windows, doors. He had small engine repair shops, but all in all right now, you know, I'm an owner, you know, operator of Frank's Basements now. We have the plumbing company, and then I also own an electric company as well called Huber Electric. So, yeah.
When it comes to basements in Western New York and us being real estate agents,
Yeah.
people are terrified when there's cracks. They're terrified when there's water.
Yeah.
How bad are the basements in Western New York? And what are things people really should be concerned about?
It's a tough question, right? It's a loaded question. Cracks are no fun at all, but it just depends. It totally depends, right? Because there's so many people in this industry, in the real estate industry, who are so ill-informed about what to look for, and they use it as scare tactics, right?
Sure.
So the cracks in a basement, like, you know, if you're seeing something come off like a little window and it's one crack, it's singular, it's totally normal, right? You have hydrostatic pressure building up on the outside of the house. It goes from, you know, more water to less water, finds a way, makes its way into
We
the
live in the Northeast, like all concrete around here.
Yeah,
That's-
nobody thought that we were going to like put full bars in our basements, like, and have heart attacks watching the Bills every single Sunday. And so, yeah, I mean, we literally have swimming pools with holes in them, and then we're like, let's live there, you know, which is crazy to me. So, severity, I don't know. It just, you see, here's the general rule of thumb. If something is structurally bad enough, you're going to see ramifications of it in other places.
Yeah.
Right? If windows and doors aren't shutting and your floors look like Cedar Point, like you got problems, right?
I just showed a house in East Amherst, like that sinking area, right?
That whole area is gone. Don't ever.
Terrible, right?
I'm kidding.
But they flipped the house.
Yeah.
And there must have been 25 pilasters
Yeah.
on the walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could see the drain tile was done, but the floor was still all heaved.
Yeah.
But the rest of the house was still like
So here's
every door jam. I'm like,
the toughest conversation, especially in East Amherst, but I'm seeing it in other places too, is pilasters or I-beams stops a wall from moving in, but it doesn't stop a wall from moving down.
Right, and that area was sinking.
Right. So even though you're stopping a wall from coming in, the wall coming in could be a byproduct of the wall coming down, because as soon as you start to lose that structural integrity, you're done. So I always tell people, like, look, get a structural engineer who's going to come out, who has a unbiased fiduciary obligation to tell you what to do. Let us put together, or somebody else put together, a plan based on that structural engineer drawing. Everything else is null and void, in my opinion, until you get somebody who went to school for 20 years to tell you how to brace that house the right way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
and I didn't see any further reports or anything like that, but
No.
99% of people are going to walk into that thing, and yes, it's got new flooring and new carpet and new cabinets, but it still feels like a circus house where, like, it was probably one of the worst I've ever seen. Now, they spent a lot of money to fix it. To what extent, I'm not sure. My clients were immediately like, hey, it's beautiful from the pictures, but we're out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's tough. I mean, it's tough because you can't put wood back into place. Like, unless you're reframing stuff, like, the wood damage has already been done. I always tell everyone, like, they're like, can't you lift it? I'm like, well, yeah, I can lift your house out of the ground if you want me to, but it's how much do you want to throw off the roof line? How much do you want to have those secondary? You can't go up to like a 98-year-old guy in the grocery store and try to adjust there until you're back to straight, right? Like, you're going to kill the guy, right? It's the same thing with a house. These problems have manifested over 50, 60, 70 years, you do what you do to stabilize, but as far as those secondary cosmetic repairs, it still could look like that.
It's interesting to me. I flipped several houses in Kenmore, and you could drive down the streets and look down the driveways and just look at the basements.
Yeah.
Like,
well, somewhere along the line, I don't know why they did this. Whoever did this, should be cursed, but also God bless them. But they put wood knee walls at grade level.
Why
they didn't just go up with the extra 3 courses a block is beside me.
Is there?
I don't know.
Is there? Because I've never got an explanation. I've asked inspectors or whatnot, and it's like they just created a weak point.
100%. Yeah,
and they're almost all like that.
Yeah, and more problematically, what sucks about those houses is a lot of the times I'm sure you've seen them too. Is the walls are straight, but the knee walls are off. So you can't go put I-beams.
And people do that. And then I wonder, wait a minute, how is this fixing this problem?
It's not. Yeah.
Do you have to rebuild the knee wall then?
You can, so if we either rebuild the knee wall where we lay down a bed of mortar and we'll actually reblock. So we'll lift and we'll reblock if the wall's straight enough. Or I'll redo it with wood, depending, a lot of Allentown stuff that we have to do. We have to redo with materials.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fun. I have a full carpentry crew that actually works for me as well, that we do structural carpentry. But yeah, I don't know why they did that. I have no idea. It's crazy. I mean, we've got a lot of work on it.
It's kind of good for you.
Thank you to the builders. But it's the same thing that you see in Tonawanda, right? There's a lot of the houses in Tonawanda that have maybe full poured foundations or even block, but they put them up post-war, so that you had veterans that were coming back that needed a place to go. They were working at Bethlehem Steel, or they were working at these places, and they just threw up houses, and they don't have footers, they don't have rebar, they don't have anything. And it was they didn't expect houses to be around that long.
Wow.
Yeah, you've told me before that you'll invite me while you're replacing a wall, that I can kick the wall down and see that literally nothing's holding.
I was going to call you because I had an opportunity for you, and the wall fell in on its own. Yeah, I know.
So is there, I guess recently, I feel like people are living more at their house than they ever have, from backyards to finished basements.
Yeah.
Has there been an increase in business because of that?
We saw we quadrupled the revenue of our companies, plural, in the last 4 years. Right?
COVID. Coming out of COVID, yeah.
Well, yeah, and so I think what probably happened is people were like, well, we can't go to Disney, so we'll take the $10,000
put it in their house
and put it in your house, right? And every industry saw that's in home services, right? I don't care if you do countertops or window, people just invested in their houses. And I think the other thing that you guys could probably speak to from a real estate perspective is you have so many people that are locked into sub-3 rates, right? Right here.
Refinanced, pulled some cash out, and
right. So, my wife and I bought our house with the expectation that it probably wasn't our forever house, but at the end of the day, if I want to buy anything, right, a lateral move doesn't make sense. Anything that we want, that gap used to be $100,000, now it's $500,000, right? And that doesn't make sense, and I don't want to lose what it is. So they're saying we're going to double down and I'll make the investment into the house that we're at.
Yep.
We looked at our house. We had more than enough house. We were having a baby coming through COVID, got married during COVID.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm not losing my interest rate. I'm not losing my equity. Let's make this what we want.
Sure.
And I'll take my experience in real estate and put it back in the house. And
100%. I mean, look, in again, you guys can probably speak to it. We're same similar situation. Bought it with our second. My wife was 7 months pregnant. Again, God bless her. She is amazing. She's lived through buying and selling 10 companies, 100 rental properties, primary residences. She deserves an award. But same thing. Yeah, she was 7 months pregnant. Got her this other house, and we're like, enough square footage, and and this might sound pretentious, but if we were to move, anything that we were looking at that would have been $600,000 a few years ago is now 8, is 9, and it's you're still doing stuff to it.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
You still need a kitchen. You still need,
Well, there's so many of those houses that were built early 2000s.
Yeah.
That everything's due to be done now. Roof,
just
furnace.
Yeah.
Some of the
There's a
windows
house in my neighborhood that's been for sale.
Yeah.
And it's 4,000 square feet with a pool. It's beautiful. Original woodwork, but it was built in 2003. The colors are dated.
Yeah.
The roof on this thing's 40 grand.
That's
right?
the thing.
Like,
It's not even just the cosmetics. Like even if you can get past that, everything's due to be
everything's changed. Furnace, mechanic, everything. Yeah. I remember I worked. A friend that I grew up with owned a restaurant downtown. And I always remember riding my bike from Tonawanda to go like hang out with him downtown and work at the restaurant. I was like 14. I remember driving around Delaware Park and be like, I'm going to own one of these houses someday, thinking like I'll never be able to afford an $800,000 house. And now you're looking around the bike, $2 million.
yeah.
Like it's like I don't know what happened.
I look at my taste now in houses. Just like, fuck, man.
Yeah. What did I do? Yeah. I don't know. I God bless the market. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's wild out there, and that's what I said. I was like, I can't stomach a bigger payment and more taxes.
Agreed.
Right? Like,
well, that's what killed us. Is that anything that we're looking at? We're like, okay, we can swing this. Like, it can be palatable, and then it's like, oh, taxes are how much our first house was per year.
Insane.
Right.
Nuts.
Insane.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
Our payment right now, I was so scared when we made the jump, and it's not much, but we came from our house in North Buffalo that was $750 a month was the payment. Mm-hmm. So then now it's crazy that my payment that I was so scared about is cheaper than a regular rent.
Like the average American car payment is now is like that.
You can't buy a pickup truck for under 70 grand anymore.
No.
And I look at my clients right now buying houses as first-time home buyers.
I can't believe their payment
for 1,200 square foot houses at 300 grand. I'm just like,
right. Their payment is like $2,600 a month.
So from your perspective, I'm interested, and I guess sorry, this is not my podcast now. But I was just asking.
Bring it on.
it's a casual conversation.
So how long does it last for? Like, what is the point of, like, what's that tipping point? Because I don't see it, and everyone is on their high horses about like it's going to end. It's like
Here's the thing. I think in other markets you started to see it change.
Yeah, especially
this is
Florida, like
insurance, even before the hurricanes.
Yeah,
like Florida, things are sitting. New York City, things are sitting.
And it's not terrible. Like they're not going into some housing crisis.
But what's the delta of them sitting? Like 15%? Like not amount, but if you have $100,000 house, let's just use rough numbers. Like, is it like a $10,000 decrease that you're seeing and it's still selling though? Because if something's was selling 6 months ago for $350, but now it's selling for $325, it's still a $300,000 neighborhood.
Here's the thing though, and I don't know if there's a lot of price drops that people are seeing. Right?
Yeah.
Part of that, in my opinion, is there's not a lot of agents who have been doing this a long time, and they're expecting things to sell like that, and they panic. So I was just telling you earlier, I had a house. It sat for 2 weeks without showings.
Yeah.
Everyone else, even other people in our team, were like panicking, like it's because your price is too high. And I'm like, we still have an inventory problem.
Yeah.
If you're looking and you need to be in that area, you have to come and look at this. And we ended up with 3 offers 2.5 weeks later. So to me, because of the inventory problem, like here, things have slowed a little bit, but like there's no way for them to go back because there's still a supply and demand problem. Yeah. So I don't know, like in Buffalo where it goes. In other areas, like in New York City and stuff, it seems like they've peaked.
Yeah.
But here,
there's still
I don't know.
It's supply and demand, right? There's more buyers than there are sellers.
You gotta think though. Like I looked at a double the other day in South Buffalo, and it was a really nice South Buffalo double.
Yeah.
That, a few years ago probably would have been $150,000, and it went for over $300,000.
Over $300,000. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, now this is because I think that all the time, like, well, they can't possibly be worth $4 in the near future, right? Like, it's got to stop somewhere. But I don't know where. And
the wild part to me is seeing 12, 13, 14, 1,500 square foot ranches and capes selling for $250,000 to $300,000.
Agree.
But they're not building them.
No.
Nobody's building them.
No one's building.
If a builder's building a house,
that's true.
It's 2,200 plus square feet.
Yeah.
400-500 grand plus.
Or it's just new build townhouse condos.
I was gonna say
the same thing over.
That's the alternative. The smaller place is a fucking patio home.
Yeah.
And it's extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But
$500,000.
Right.
Patio home.
$300 a square foot.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to comment on, just to get it out on a public forum, I'll probably piss people off, but like I'm I can't handle the people gloating that it's like we got 700 offers and it was $500,000 over asking. Like, bro, you priced it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's so deceit. Like, I love capitalism as much as the next guy, but at the end of the day, like you said, the onus, I think, is on the agent, in my opinion, to educate their buyers and their sellers properly. And I understand that there are fundamentally anomalies within the market. There are certain things that won't comp necessarily or haven't been sold, or there are new peaks that are being hit in certain neighborhoods. Great. I'm all about that. But I just think what you said hit the nail on the head.
There was a house that, you know, the narrative was, look how amazing it went this much over. That particular house that I'm thinking of, when I have multiple clients who are looking all over Western New York, or even not looking at all, reach out to me and go, what's wrong with this house? Why is it so cheap? 100%. That right there tells you something. And then you talk to other agents and they're like, oh yeah, that house. Because they had the same thing happen to them. Like, there is a certain point where there's an illusion of like what's happening, where yes, there's supply and demand issues. Yes, things are going over, but there's so many cases, even at the height of it, there's so many cases where the house didn't actually sell for more than it was worth. The comps supported it. They just priced it so low.
Well, the thing is, and we probably talked about this as being real estate agents, right? Like you just said, all right, great, you got 15 offers. Sounds great, but it's not.
Yep.
Like, there's a sweet spot. Yes, you want multiple offers.
Yeah.
But when 10 of them are the exact same offer.
Right. Yeah.
When I'm pricing out a listing, I always try to call the agents from the comps too, because I want to know, like, okay, this one sold for this, but what was the activity like?
100%.
Because you have two things. One, like you're saying, maybe you had 15 offers, but like 14 of them were actually all at the list price. There was just one crazy person. So now, can I really bank on we're going to get that crazy person too? I don't know if you can bank on that. You have to know that information, I think.
It's not always easy, right?
But you were saying before about the last few years, then this is what this gets to. This is why there's an inventory problem, because prices have gone up. People had good rates. They don't want to move. So they're staying in their home. So you've seen a huge increase in business from that.
Trades in general, like getting back to what you said, they're not building anything. It's insane. Like, I hope to God that my kids come to me and they're like, I want to be a mason. You know what I mean? Like, it's we could harp on this forever, but it's just, there's the school of thought of people, you know, getting involved with trades and learning a trade. I love the idea. We try to make sure that people get licensed and teach. I told you I came from a teaching background. So like, everything that I do, I want people to be able to train one position up, two positions down, and know it at all times. And what they're learning, be it electric, be it plumbing, be it waterproofing, structural stuff, they can take it anywhere in the world with them.
Yeah.
Right? Which is super cool.
It's a trade you'll always have and a skill.
Yeah. I am fundamentally disappointed with how we're building in Buffalo. I think that there's smarter ways to do it, in my opinion. And, you know, like, look, I'm not involved with building the 20, 50, 100 unit stuff. It's like, I'm not, I am in some regards, like maybe I'll get a call for, you know, helical piles or something like that to start it off, but I'm not personally doing that with my real estate investing. Anything I invest in is single family to like fourplex at this point. But, you know, I just feel like the same product is being bought at, you know, again and again and again. So you're right, like that 1,500 square foot affordable house, there's got to be a way to do it. No one's building it, right?
And I get it, because the cost of building that, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to build that, you're going to make less. If you just, it seems like there is that sweet spot with the builders, and I'm not a builder, so I don't know.
Something has to, like, concrete's gone up 1,000%. Yeah. Like, and steel has gone up 50%. Like, it's just ridiculous. So there is some validity definitely to that, and then paying for manpower. So I respect that, but I wonder if there's got to be a way to.
Well, it's an interesting thing.
Better.
And I'm not trying to say anyone's price gouging, but like during COVID, when the lumber went through the roof, it's not through the roof anymore. The prices never came down.
Right. What I'm seeing from my perspective is the prices came down on materials, but what suppliers left was the bullcrap fuel surcharge costs. So they brought the material prices down to what they should be, but they stick a $500 fuel surcharge on the bottom, which is like, okay, we're apples to apples, but they're leaving those on there. The other thing that happened too is there was so much legislation that was passed through COVID about how companies can run and what they can and can't do with certain parameters for how you need to pay people for sick time, how you need to make sure you have these different things in effect that are exorbitantly higher now to run a company with overhead, that the cost of just acquiring someone to come work there is 30 to 40% higher, which is crazy. We just got in, again, a byproduct of COVID, a byproduct of the inventory of people that are starting to work there. My comp doubled.
Yeah.
Like without my mod going up, doubled within 12 months. And, you talk to your broker and they're like, well, look, go drive down the 990 and every single billboard's for an injury attorney, right? And it's like, because the reserves on a broken arm case that would have been like the guy's back to work or the person's back to work in 6 weeks now turns into 80% disabled now for the next 50 years. And there's a $500,000 reserve on a $10,000 injury. And same thing with health insurance. I mean, we just got rates. If you are,
that's crazy.
If you're, community rated, you're seeing minimum 12 to 15% increase in 1 year. And that's high mark independent
car insurance.
Yes.
Like everything, all mine just renewed. And it's like, again, I called my mortgage broker. I'm like, or I'm sorry, my insurance broker. Yeah. And we sat down for lunch and he kind of went over it. He's like, listen, it's industry wide. I mean, your insurance companies are going out of business left and right.
We're seeing people get dropped after they close on a house. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, you need to do your roof, by the way. Yeah. After they close on it.
Yeah.
And they ask how old the roof is. I had a client who bought $1 million house in East Amherst, and the seller had a claim the year before or that year, but never paid out cash out of it. And he's like, nobody will give me insurance. Mm-hmm. He had to keep shopping around because of this $1,000 claim that was just she didn't pay out.
My broker, my insurance broker, I love him. He's fantastic. He does all my rental properties. Great guy. But even with him, I get a letter probably once a week from a rental property that they're just driving by and they're like, we need you to scrape 1 foot by 1 foot of paint.
Just had it.
And I'm like,
so terrified of that right now.
Like what?
One of my garages had an older section of roof. And they're like, hey, your insurance dropped down to this because they won't fully cover. And I'm just, because I got full replacement value. Yeah. And they're like, they won't insure it because, so I spent $3,000 on a garage roof.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they give you like 27 minutes to fix it. Like certified mail letter. I thought I was getting served. I'm like, what? I got to scrape and paint 1 foot or else I lose my insurance for 25 properties. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Are you seeing, with all the changes we were talking about, are you seeing having any trouble keeping employees?
No. So look, everyone says they have trouble finding employees, and I say it's because they all friggin' work for me. Like, all the great employees work for me, right? Like, I couldn't do anything that I do without the people that are on my team. My leadership team is unfriggin' believable. We've had a big changeover in that leadership process and like who they are since I took over. But now my team is unbelievable. And then the people that we have, so we do a pay for performance. Mm-hmm. So all the guys are cut into a certain percentage of their full week revenue.
Oh, nice.
So they all kind of run their own companies within our company.
Yep.
And once you're there, if you can deal with the type of work it is, it's backbreaking. There's no doubt about it. It's hard work. You're hauling 5-gallon pickle buckets for 9 hours a day. I think that's why I have to go to a chiropractor now, because I've been doing that since I've been like 4 years old. Just haul a bucket. But no, I mean, I have great people. I could always use more. So it's not that I need to replace who I have. It's just we're growing at such a rate that I can't keep up with bringing the people in and training them responsibly fast enough. So that's my problem.
What was one of the biggest changes when you had that sit down with your dad that you wanted to implement, like the direction of the business? Because you guys I've been in real estate personally. I've been licensed for 18 years. My father has been a realtor since I was a little kid. We do a lot of business in the Kenton area. Mm-hmm. you guys, like I've known when I met you and you're like, you said your name's Frank, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? You're like, I own Frank's Basements, and I was like, holy shit. It was because you guys own that market. You're so reputable. Your work and your warranty are the most reputable in the industry. So for you to come into something that was already working so well, what kind of changes did you want to make?
I guess I'll answer it in a couple ways. And I'm daydreaming a little bit about how we met, because it was like perfect being on like a pumpkin hayride.
We met on a hayride.
I don't. We were having pumpkin spice lattes together. No,
I believe that.
it was just like I had
pizza.
like some PTSD about that moment when we met. And I'm like, I wish somebody would talk to me about anything that's not this. So I just want to publicly say thank you. My wife Meredith was like, pay attention, like and then she's like, of course, somebody with real estate. It was a fun ride home. What did I do different? So I'll answer it in two ways. I guess the number one thing that I guess I wanted to do was go from playing defense to offense, like which was, I had a higher risk tolerance than I think my father probably did at that point in his career. Now, when he was my age, he was like, I'll do whatever the hell, like just send it, whatever, we'll do anything. So I think I came in with a fresh set of eyes, and then I also try to run a company from a position of, I want everyone to be on this team. But if you don't want to subscribe to X, Y, and Z, I'm going to ask you to seek greatness elsewhere. Like, right? Because like, this is our vision, our mission, our values. And I love everyone in this room, but I'm not going to stop until we win, because winning looks like everybody on this team making more money, us having a better culture, us having a better, building. One of the first things we did is we went from a 10,000 square foot building to a 65,000 square foot building. Wow. In the middle of COVID, in the middle of me having my first kid. Like, we,
oh my God.
First case of COVID in Western New York, we inked a deal for a 65,000 square foot building at a Tim Hortons with masks on, right? So there's that part of it. Then the other shout out that I want to say is to Contractor Nation, which is an affiliate of ours. And Larry Janescu started Contractor Nation. He owns Basement Systems. He's in Connecticut. He was a craftsman, carpenter who started from nothing and grew into almost $1 billion empire of best practices. And he said, these are some of the best practices that we're going to use. We have proprietary, materials. We have proprietary stuff that he has patents on. He said, this is the CRM program. This is how we're going to sell. This is how we're going to look and address issues. And there's almost 250 affiliated dealers. They're not franchises across the United States, the UK, and Canada, that we all come together. We just had convention actually, and we get together and we say, what's the face of best practice? Like, what does it look like? How do we help customers finance? Like, how are we going to do certain things that we decide on, and implementing them with the team, and then having that support has been tremendous for me. So first is go from defense to offense, right? Like, I feel incredibly blessed that I'm not a heart surgeon. Like, if it can be fixed with time and money, it's just an inconvenience, right? So just, I tell my team, as long as it's done morally and ethically right, I don't really care how you get to it, just get it done, right? Because you can't deny information that you freely give. So I tell my team all the time, number one, here's your goal. I'm not going to tell you how to get to it. You engineer how to get to it. Because if I tell you how to do it, you're going to say, screw that guy. It failed because of you. You figure it out. I'm empowering you. So go from defense to offense. And then number two, align with really good mentors. Like, I'm so lucky to have the mentors that I have.
Wow.
Larry, Mark DeCanto down at Basement Systems. I mean, these are guys that really, really cared, right? And helped us to grow. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned morally. I wanted to just say too, you and I have had this conversation.
Yeah.
So as I said, in the Canton area, especially all over Western area, but especially there, we see the tags on the sump pumps like everywhere. Like, you guys own that market. Now, whenever I'm representing a buyer and there is a basement issue, I want what's right for my client.
Yeah.
And I'm always afraid, and it's not just basement contractors. Anytime you bring in a contractor to further evaluate something for your buyer, you're a little worried because they make money when they sell something. So when you have a furnace guy come out and something can be fixed, but he's telling them you need a new furnace. Sure. I want what's right for the client, and sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't know if they're getting hosed. And I've seen firsthand, you and I have talked to us, not with you guys, but I'll never forget, I saw it was a block foundation in Williamsville. There was a little dampness in the corner and a little trickle of water. The walls were perfectly straight. She wasn't ready to sell. 6 months later, I came back, and she had I-beams around her entire basement. There wasn't even a structural issue with it. Someone screwed her over and took a whole bunch of money from her. And so I'd always been a little fearful, especially with basements. And I knew you guys had the best reputation and warranty, but I was scared. And you told me that if anyone brings back work that shouldn't be there, you will fire them.
So I've had situations where we have, like, I'll address this in a couple different ways, where we've done work that I don't think was necessary. And I made the customer sign off on a form that literally said, I want this done. I know that it's not a problem, but I just want this done. Like, I've personally sold houses or sold jobs that a person will want a wall replacement, and I'll say, you don't need a wall replacement.
Wow.
You're okay. I don't care what any other company said. They said, well, you said we could do carbon armor bands or I-beams. I want a new wall. Okay, fine. I'll do it. We'll draw it, but you're going to sign off on a form because I'm never going to be the guy that's going to do that. There's enough work for everybody in this town. There should be good competition. I just wish that there were more people who followed the rules the right way, like got the permits the right way. I'll make a recommendation. I might have told you this before, but anyone listening, if you are questioning the validity of somebody's work in a house, I don't care if it's basements, roof, whatever, don't even listen to the person that's selling the house. Go to the municipality. Like, foil the hell out of getting a understanding who pulled a permit, right? If they don't have a permit on file for a brand new roof, that's a problem. Especially like Amherst, right? So same thing with basement stuff. If they're saying, I don't care if they say it's my company, like, prove it, right? Prove it. Show me the paperwork, and then call us, because it's a transferable warranty. Like, the one thing that I'll say is what really, that story kills me, because I see it so much where we will actually lose a job because we will encourage people that they don't have to make a move. Then somebody else will come in and scare tactic them into a $30,000. If you don't do this job today, your whole house is going to get black mold. There's a franchise company that I don't want to slander anyone, but there's a franchise company that's trying to work their way into Buffalo, actually called us to see if we would pull their permits for them. We said, first off, don't call us. Secondly, we own Frank's Basements. They called our plumbing company to see if we'd pull permits for them.
Oh, wow.
And they will say, look, if you don't do this job, your whole house is going to get black mold. Your kids are going to get sick. Your dog's going to die. Sign here, it's $30,000, but we can wrap it into a 30-year mortgage at $199 a month. Right? And it's like the prompt, because I've hired people from that company, is you don't leave the house until they're calling the cops to tell you to leave.
Oh my
Like, it's
God.
buy or die,
That's
right?
wild.
And I don't mean to, look, I don't mean to slander people, because there's a lot of other companies out in the Western New York market who are reputable, right? Who could potentially be cheaper than us because they only have 2 people that are working for them, right? So the overhead cost and the insurance cost is different. But, I look and there's like people that own other companies, and they're on Facebook saying, hey, anyone want to make some cash tomorrow to do waterproofing? And I'm like, I can't believe this is what we're going against. Like, they're going to be out of business. This person's going to have an issue, which just leads me to the point that I want to say is, I think what makes us so good after 45 years, and it's kind of funny, we're the best in the industry because we've made every mistake in the industry. Like, right? Like, we've done a wall replacement on the wrong house. Like, straight, we gotta call a homeowner, and they're like, where are you? And we're like, oh, ABC Street. And they're like, we're like, you're at the wrong house. So like, we've blown up houses. We straight up, we hit a gas line. It wasn't our fault. Was not our fault. National Grid or National Fuel completely marked it wrong. We sent a fireball through a guy's house, blew up the house. Wow. We were not wrong.
Anyone die?
No one died.
Okay.
No one died. And the guy, to this day, we put his family, his kids, everything in a hotel, fully paid for, and he still recommends us today. We've made literally every mistake that you could make. So I like to think that we've learned from that. We've gotten better. And then I think what really sets us apart is if we're wrong, and that's the spirit of my father, like, how do I make it right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do I need to do to make it right? Not just fixing it. Like, let me take your family to dinner. Let me make sure you guys are whole. Like, I don't care what this looks like. It's not about money. It's about reputation.
Right.
When you grow up in a world where you sacrifice your family time, I have the luxury, and I've worked my winning schedule into being home for dinner with my kids, and I'm trying not to, be at the office on weekends. But, you don't lose that mindset as a business owner, where every single car accident you see on a throughway, you're like, oh my God, is that one of my trucks? Or every call you get at 6 a.m, you're like, oh my God. But, I just think that dedication, that like, I've answered my phone at 3 a.m. Like, what's wrong? Like, what do we need to do? Like, oh, we got an issue, some pump's backed up. So, and then we have a full service department, which is amazing. I have 8 service techs that are 24 hours a day. So if you do business with a competitor, they're not answering there. If you call 3 a.m. and your sump pump's broke, which it's probably gonna be broke on Christmas Eve when your in-laws are over, like, everyone's like, when does my hot water tank go? I'm like, I'll tell you the exact date into that.
That literally happened to me.
Yeah.
My first duplex.
Yeah.
Me and my wife was my girlfriend at the time. We come home, it's 2 a.m., had been drinking at a party.
That's when it happens.
And it's pouring. And I go down, and there's a foot of water in my basement. And I think at the time, the phone book still existed. But I called every 24-hour place that I could find.
Yeah.
And people are like not answering the phone, or they're like, oh, I'm sleeping. We'll be there in the morning.
See you
and I'm
Monday.
like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many phone calls I made that night trying to find somebody to come.
So the messaging that I tell my service department is all the time. I say, look, imagine that you just spent $10,000 on your own home, right? And just finished on a Friday, and Saturday night your sump pump blew up because Zoller or some company, some guy in a manufacturing place put a part in wrong, and the pump blew up.
Well, it happens, right?
It happens, right? It's a human error. Like, what level of urgency would you expect from a company that you just invested in?
Yeah.
And when you're going to ink a contract with somebody who's doing any kind of service at your house, ask yourself that question. How long are they going to be in business for? How long have they been in business for? Are they asking the right questions? Are they, there's a whole melee of questions that when I go into a house, I talk to a customer, I say, listen, go with me, don't go with me, but do yourself a favor and ask these other contractors X, Y, and Z. Like, ask them this for your own knowledge. And if you're not getting the answers that you're hearing today, like, think about this. And, the other thing I'll rant about is, the social media stuff, where it's like, I think, again, what separates us is the level and degree to which we take care of people. So it kills me when I see people that get keyboard, muscles, and they're like, da 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 da, and they don't tell any part of the story, right? And it's like, how do I fix this? And then you got the whole strand of, normally people are defending us, but it's just, call us if you got an issue, and we'll make it right. You guys are very reputable in your field. If you've made a mistake, I'm sure you're the first people to step up and say, we'll fix it.
3/4 of it is, hey, I messed up. Here's the resolution. Here's how we fix it. What's going to make you happy?
We're all fallible, right?
100%. Like, everybody makes mistakes. I don't care how good you are and how long you've been in business.
But that's something that separates people, I think, because not everyone's like that.
No.
And when you're in the service industry, which we all are, and that really takes precedence over, like, we want to make money, but like what you said about, like, taking that call, like, to me, I'm not as aggressively ambitious as you guys, but what I do have is this sense of responsibility that eats alive, at me. And so when something is not going right for a customer, like, I can't sleep at night. When there's a problem, like, it's my responsibility to fix it. And that's something that, just knowing that you have that says a lot about the whole company.
I'm completely fine, and I don't make a habit of it, but I will lose money on whatever it is to make it right, so I can sleep at night knowing that you're happy. And I had to get out of Airbnb, short-term rentals, because I had an Ellicottville house, right? Beautiful 4,000 square foot log cabin that I rented out. Literally, I'm not a skier, but I bought it as an investment. And the turnover every weekend, and they were paying $1,500 a night, sometimes $2,000 a night to stay in this place. Well, guess what? That thing needs to be like a pristine hotel. And between the property management and the cleaners, I was so sick of stupid little things happening every weekend. I said, this just isn't worth it to me. And I can't be there to do it myself. And I just kind of, after 2 years, I was like, the stress of worrying every night that somebody was going to complain about a hair being underneath the bed, or, just stupid little
I kind of I wish, and you mentioned moral compass. I appreciate that story. I wish I could be that guy. I was I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Because it makes it so tough to manage rental properties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's these are people, this is where people live. This is their domicile. This is their safety, their refuge. I don't care if they're renting. So for me, I'm the same way with my rental properties. I want things pristine. Yep. Right. Yep. And so it makes it tough because you want
I always
to
tell my tenants, I'm like, please call me when something's leaking, something's not working right. I've got maintenance guys who will come fix it.
Yeah.
Do not try to fix it yourself. I appreciate it, but don't make it worse, and don't not tell me about it.
But I think you calling them and establishing that rapport. Yeah. I don't know how many units that you have, right? But you calling them and having that relationship, they feel a sense of obligation to you, right? Where, I something that I see that is interesting in the rental sphere is people just blowing up tenants on Facebook and the live videos and look how bad I got burned and this and this. And I just, it's the same kind of nomenclature that I see employed with a lot of companies that are this guy just screwed me as an employee and just quit. Okay, when's the last time you called them? When's the last time you checked in with them? What's the level of detail and attention? And look, there's crazy people out there and they're bad tenants. I'm not saying that, but to what degree are you following through with people and building rapport with people and endearing people to you and having open and honest dialogue in our businesses, in our personal lives, in the way that we address every interaction that we have? At some point, and I think this goes back to everything that we're talking about, there's got to be a point of radical accountability of, I did this, I own this, I fix this, I build this, I manifest this, I create this. That I just don't see. Right.
Goes back to the idea of how do I fix this? And the people just don't have that.
No.
That's the same. So in real estate, with the changes now, we have to have buyers sign an agreement with us and all this stuff, and nothing has really changed. Business as usual. But when I hear an agent say oh, that person stole my client, or they went into an open house and bought a house without me, fuck them.
Yeah.
The first thing I ask is what was your conversation before that they thought it would be okay to just maybe you did something wrong? Because that's the first thing I would think is what did I do wrong?
100%.
Did they lose trust in me if they went and did something else?
That degree of entitlement super tough. I just said that it's woe is me. Everyone's out to get me without that introspection is just insane.
And I don't know where that comes from in our society. I just feel it's rampant.
Well, I think it's the immediacy effect. It's the Amazon effect. Yeah. You order something and it's there in 20 seconds. Yeah. And if we have any inconvenience, I feel as though we've lost perspective of, life, limb or death kind of conversations. We have even people who don't have a place to live in this country, are still in some ways better than other places in the world.
Sure.
And I think that we've lost a sense of how bad it could be.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you have this immediacy of everything. You have convenience of everything. And I think people start to become accustomed to what that looks like.
Totally.
One of the greatest things, and I'll do a shout out, is I get the honor and privilege. I serve on the board of Hearts for the Homeless. I'm actually the treasurer. Really good relationship with Nick Calandra and the entire Hearts organization. Having the opportunity to have that altruism just feels really, really good. But being able to see that, but I just think, sorry for the selfish plug. I just had to get it out there for them. But I love having that opportunity to see what we can do to affect community, affect change, do something that's outside of ourselves. And the number one reason why I was so in on wanting to be a part of that organization is because I found myself falling into those ruts of I want it now. It's the world's out to get me. Which can fall into a state of just this anxiety and depression and this just. So I don't know. I guess anyone who's watching this, do something outside of yourself. Take some radical accountability and I don't know. Look for people who are helpers, right? Look for the people who want to help. And there's a lot of people that are around you and your ecosystem that you might not even know that you can tap on. It goes back to good mentors, good teachers, who you're surrounding yourself with. It's all important. It all matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're already almost an hour in. I want to ask you about music.
Let's
when
talk
we were
about
on,
music.
when we were on that hayride, and I didn't know you yet, and now that I know how you are, you just always have to make a comment.
So you're just picking
And
up
he
dudes
goes,
on hay
he
rides?
goes,
Yeah, it's
okay.
farmers only.
We it was for our kids' preschool.
Oh, okay.
It's a kids' preschool. That turned.
And you were like, yeah. So we took Francis to this. There was like some music festival or something, and he was like, "What is this?" Because anything that's not Norwegian black metal, he's not happy.
No,
about.
he's not.
And I was like, "What?"
We took him to this like indie folk rock concert, and he was just so pissed off. Like, my son is an absolute menace, and I absolutely like adore him, and he's just a freaking rock star. And my daughter's becoming the same way. And one of the only ways that we can calm my 3-year-old daughter down is putting on just like the most ridiculous Midwest emo music like you've ever heard. She's listening to like Tiny Moving Parts and like all these. My son absolutely slams like Norwegian black metal, like just like loves the heaviest crap like in the world. We showed him. My wife and I were driving, and we're like, all right, should we show him? Like, let's show him Blink-182. Like, let's show him some of the stuff that like we listen to. And he's like, turn this baby lullabies crap on. And like, I couldn't even buy.
He's 4, right?
He's 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't even buy those records. Like, yeah, we were just showing him, all of like,
So you made that comment, and then when we became Facebook friends, your profile picture shows you playing drums. So were you in a band?
I grew up playing drums my whole life. I like played guitar because it was a sexier instrument than like drums, and I got really exhausted with lugging stuff in and out. But I grew up playing drums. I play in a band now. I play in like an instrumental metal band right now. It's my release. We just had practice last night.
Do you actually like perform?
Yeah,
pieces?
we play out. We've like toured.
What's the name of the band?
Huns, Huns. And so we're gonna try to do a show in January, and it's just like my little safe spot where I love the music community. We have such a good music community in Buffalo. It's unbelievable. Everyone is super welcoming, and you talk about like, and there's no pretentiousness in my opinion. Like, it's just come as you are, come have a $1 PBR, and let's listen to some Norwegian black metal. And like it feels so great. It doesn't matter where you come from or how much real. It's funny. I know we're past probably where we're at, but like, when I first walked in, it's you kind of have your guard up. It's like, well, what kind of watch you have? Like, how many doors you have? And the metal scene is the unifying factor.
I wasn't trying to swing any dick.
I mean,
right?
I think everyone is, right? It's like that first like archetypal, but like the music scene in Buffalo is super cool. Yeah, I think getting down to that core level, just like like I said, drinking a PBR, and no one's asking how many doors you own.
You know what's
great about Buffalo?
Oh, I love it.
Right?
Yeah,
but
in general.
But I think honestly, that's the metal community, because I
agree.
Think about so I grew up loving heavy metal, and I would go to shows all over the place locally. Like, I would go to Ozfest every year. I would go to all these little shows at like the Dome Theater.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And one of the most interesting things that I observed when I was a teenager and early 20s was at those shows, and I was not one to like get in the pit.
Yeah.
But I'd watch, and like when someone would fall, people would push everyone away and help them up, make sure they're okay. The most violent thing I ever saw at a concert was at a Dave Matthews concert. Like,
that tracks.
Like, it was always, or like,
I don't even want like, I'll get canceled for saying something about Dave Matthews, but yeah.
But
I can't stand jam band music. I mean, playing a C chord for 4 hours, like, just do something different. Sorry, guys. So I just turned off half the audience.
Nobody's listening by now anyway.
No, yeah. All right, yeah.
They stopped about 45 minutes.
Everyone turned off. Yeah.
I think that's the spirit of that type of community, though.
They're the nicest people in the world. Yeah,
like going and tailgating at like, a Bills game. People are getting into fights on the same team. But I remember being a kid tailgating at Ozfest, and like, the 50-year-old dude next to us is like, hey, we made this Mexican chicken. You want some?
Right.
And like,
yeah.
there was just this sense of community. So I just think that's really interesting, because I haven't been around that scene much, but when I was a kid, it made a profound impact.
It's sad. It's made a profound impact on me, actually. Like, and it was so instrumental in, who I became and the people I hung out with. And I was lucky enough to be like a 15-year-old that was riding my like bike to Custard Punk House and watching, basement bands perform, or going to like the funeral home, like, right, and seeing these bands that went on to like amazing things, right, and all this like folk punk stuff, and even like the metal shows and stuff, and it was just such a cool space and time. I hope that my kids have that experience, like, because it was everyone kind of looked out for each other. You grabbed like, again, go back to grabbing like a backpack of PBRs and going to an abandoned funeral home to see a folk punk show. Like, I don't know, that AI will probably destroy everything, but I hope that my kids have that experience. And if anyone wants to start an underground like venue with me, I'd be totally down. Because I feel like there's, waiting room is closed now, and you got, you have very few venues anymore in Buffalo, good, solid underground venues. Yeah.
What's funny is Chris Ring.
Yeah.
So I was helping him look for a space, and we were actually looking at an old funeral home in West Seneca that was like, he wanted to divide it out for bands. And it never came to fruition. There was a lot of problems with it, but that was just one of the things that he was kind of working on with some.
I'd totally be down for it. Like, I know nothing. I would absolutely tank a bar into the ground like immediately. I don't even drink. Like, so, but like if I had a right partner, I'd be into it totally. But yeah, it's such a cool community. Actually, Meredith and I, we had negative $500 when we got married. Like, we had nothing. We were scraping for like slices of pizza, and I'd like savor those moments so much. But we had. So Rick at Mohawk Place, like I'd been playing shows there for so long, and I called him up, I'm like, dude, I don't know where we're gonna have our rehearsal dinner. And he's like, have it here. Wow. We had a rehearsal dinner at Mohawk. Wow. My mother cried her eyes out. Like, we were just like at a bar, and no one could like get their feet off the ground because it was sticky. He brought in a bartender for us, and we called Amichis, who is taking care of every family event in our entire lives, and like showed up with like trays of food, and like. We had our rehearsal dinner at Mohawk Place, and it's like, oh my God, how serendipitous it was to be like, play a show there on like a Tuesday, rehearsal dinner on a Friday.
That's a great story.
That was so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, what else, guys? Is that it? Is that the end?
What else? I mean, there's so many things we didn't even get to talk about, but we'll have to do this again. Is there anything you want to plug, like your website or?
Yeah, talk about all your,
So Frank's Basements, franksbasements.com. Come, check us out. We just started sponsoring. We sponsored the Rochester Americans and the Rochester Red Wings. So we have two sports sponsorships going on.
Sponsoring things, huh?
Yeah.
I'd like to put in a plug there. Well, here comes the sales pitch.
Here it comes. Just call the office and tell them how much you want. No. See if it's in the Q4 marketing budget.
Just scrape some pennies from the cup holder in the car. We're good.
Whatever you need, man. Whatever you need. We'll do that. So I'm excited. We're making a huge stake in the Rochester community, as well as Buffalo. We're looking at a couple opportunities here. So Frank's Basements, Mr. Plumber, and then also our newest addition, Huber Electric, that I bought. Dave and Laura Tyrone. Laura's father started the company almost 70 years ago. When he got back from a deployment, he actually would go up to doorbells and try to ring them, and if they didn't work, he would ask the people if they wanted them fixed, and that's how he started an electrical business.
That's amazing.
And they're both still involved with the company, so not the father, but Laura and Dave are still involved every day. Huge appreciation for them. And then we do commercial and residential electric, so really, really excited about that. But, my bread and butter is Frank's Basements, and it's, ride or die for me. So I love it. I'm grateful every single day, and I get to meet great people and cool people like you and, on hayrides. And I'm excited for, what the future looks like for our company. So,
well, thank you for being here. And also,
thanks for having us.
He came out to a house that I had a buyer interested in, and I appreciate, you're so honest. Like that's so, when it comes to fixing a foundation, it's scary, like I said, because people could tell you. So there were some questionable fixes, but you were like, this is probably done wrong. But honestly, I wouldn't touch this wall for now. Just keep an eye on it. Like that right there, though, being that honest, because you could have came in there and been like, you really need to do this, and it's crazy, but you were being honest. Like, you know what? That probably moved so long ago, and these aren't doing anything, and it's done moving.
Relationships are above profit. I value that. And again, I hope that you'll take an experience like that and tell 15 people, hey,
100%.
I didn't do any work with them, but they were honest. Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's so important. I would think that you guys think the same thing.
Totally. We just went to a client's house the other day who someone scared them into thinking they need to move because they had some moisture in their crawl space, because they went out of town for a couple months in the summertime and the whole place was all burned up. And she thought we were going there to tell her, like, this is the price we're selling, and we were like, do not sell your house.
Yeah,
like,
don't do it.
I would love the commission, but no, like, this is a great house for you. So we're the same way.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on the show.
Appreciate it.
It was awesome.
All the knowledge.
Yeah. If there's anything that we can ever do for you, let us know, and we'll have to do this again. A lot of other topics to cover.
Beautiful. Thanks, Brady.
Cool.
Thank you.